What? To bring unity within the ummah and reform the ummah. We do not want people coming on our pulpits whose aim is to disunite the ummah, to destroy the ummah, to act condescendingly and arrogantly towards people who they don't like in history. Do you know how many people we have who sits on the pulpits of Al Muhammad? There are 5, 6 figures in history they dislike. They woo their crowds, and their crowds come back to them, and they woo them, and the crowds come back to them, and they begin to act sarcastically. They speak sarcastically about people in history. How would you like it if in that crowd they spoke sarcastically about the 14 you love? Would you like it or no? No, you wouldn't. So why when you come up here you speak sarcastically about them or condescendingly about them? When you come on the minbar of Al Muhammad, their aim has to be, according to the Imam, before he began his khutbah, to bring unity between the ummah. Unity doesn't mean you compromise your history. Unity means you explain your side and you give the other side. Our sixth Imam, before he'd begin any lecture, he'd say, هذا رأي أهل الكوفة, هذا رأي أهل المدينة, وهذا رأي جعفر بن محمد. That's the opinion of the people of Kufa, the people of Abu Hanifa. That's the opinion of the people of Medina, the people of Malik. This is the opinion of Ja'far bin Muhammad. Notice, he acknowledges there are other Muslims who have opinions. I may disagree with them, but I shouldn't be rude about the way I talk about them. Because those Muslims have done their research, they have come to a conclusion. If they differ with that which I say, so what? They can bring their proofs, I bring our proofs. Yet you find, unfortunately, there are people who cause more damage to the Muslim state when they sit in this pulpit than anywhere else. That sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot. As in recently, there's been a bandwagon of speakers from the followers of Al Muhammad who want to come forward and abuse certain Sahaba of Rasulullah from the minbar. They begin the lecture with the abuse of the Sahaba. Now, if you have a difference with those Sahaba, there are others who love them. Your difference, what should you do? Should you not talk about your difference? No, talk. But talk in the way you'd want them to talk about your leaders. Because when they talk about yours, do you want them abusing? Do you want them cursing? No. So when you talk about them, say X, Y, and Z. At Safin, Amir al-Mu'mineen heard some of his companions abusing Muawiyah. He said, wait, come here. He said, you have a problem with the man? Point out which faults he has and what he's changed of the sunnah of Rasulullah. Otherwise, don't abuse. This minbar, according to the Imam, he could have easily sat in front of Yazid and said, Yazid, you are an X and a Y and a Z. No. Yazid, let me tell you about the basis of this religion and who built this religion. Which is more constructive, attack or academic analysis of the arguments? This minbar has to be a university, not an emotional bandwagon. Number 2. Number 3, the third aim of the minbar, according to the Imam, was what? According to the Imam, the third aim of those who sit or those who surround, ajran azima. That there's a great reward to the one who sits on the minbar or sits around the minbar. Because we know very well, according to Hadith al-Kisa, when you come and sit to listen to the words of Rasulullah and his family, Allah showers his blessings on that place. That there is a reward which is unbelievable. Especially in these nights when the weather has been atrocious, you see the true soldiers of the Imam who turned up, the ones who the weather could not get in their way. Then you find others who maybe could not turn up, but would listen. Imam could vision from that time that there would be people who may say, for example, there's no need to go to majalis. Turn up a couple of times in the year and that's enough. No. The Imam says there is a great reward for those who are listening to my khutbah. That even before he started, even those in Yazid's palace, the fact that you're sitting listening, Allah is showering you with blessings. And that's why the internet in a way has been great, but in another way has been a disadvantage. The internet has allowed people to listen to lectures, to recap on lectures, worldwide listeners, people who could not attend. Yet at the same time, beware that the internet may make some of us begin to be lazy. Beware. I'm saying it because I could see something developing in a couple of years. And that is what is going to be the minbar at home, where you're going to sit, listen. I learned, alhamdulillah. It may have not affected us in these nights, but there are places around the world where people just sat at home, clicked a button and listened. Majlis wasn't just about learning. It was about looking to your right and left and seeing Muslim brothers you haven't seen. Asking about their health, asking about their education, asking about their wealth. Imam, when he says there's a great reward, yes, there's a reward when someone clicks the button on the internet, but not the same reward when the person is sitting in the middle of the crowd and is able to learn. Therefore, taking this on board, let's look at the context of this sermon. Why did the Imam give this khutbah? Number one, because of Yazid's outstanding poetry. Yazid ibn Muawiyah, as I've said before, was arguably one of the greatest poets in Arabian history. He used to only answer you in poetry. If you speak to him, he only answers in poetry, nothing else. His eloquence was so great, and he was only what? In his early 30s. Yet he'll say, if you want to speak to me, speak poetically. That's why when Sayyidah Zainab spoke, he was like, I admire your Arabic, it's quite strong, you know. He had that arrogance with his Arabic, yet it was 3 lines of poetry which he narrated, which came forward and said that I do not have any belief in this religion. The poetry which began later, الشياخي ببدر شهدوا جزع الخزرج من وقع الأسل لا أهلوا واستهلوا فرحا ثم قالوا يا يزيد لا تشل لعبت هاشم بالملك فلا خبر جاء ولا وحي نزل. Do you know what he says? He boasted about his disbelieving ancestors in front of Imam. Imam was sitting there. He said to him, I wish my ancestors from Badr were present to see the way I've just defeated you. You know Bani Hashim, what they did? There was no revelation, there was no news. It was just a kingdom that they built. And you find a scholar around the world today who says, Yazid, radiyallahu an. Radiyallahu an, for saying that I wish my ancestors at Badr were here. Badr, was it between Bani Hashim and Bani Umayyah, or Islam and Jahiliyyah? Which one? Badr was Islam and Jahiliyyah. When he says, I wish my ancestors from Badr were here, it means I wish Abu Sufyan, Utbah bin Rabi'a, Abu Jahl, Walid ibn al-Mughira, I wish they were all here. Then he says, La'ibat. La'ibat means what in English? They played. They played. La'ibat Hashim, Bani Hashim, bil mulk. فَلَا خَبَرٌ جَاءَ وَلَا وَحْيٌ نَزَلَ. There was no news, there was no revelation. The Imam is sitting down. Imagine the insult which he's just given him with this poetry. Number one. Number two, the second part of the context, the Imam can see his father's head being poked with a stick. Yazid used to place the head next to him and he pokes the eyes of Abu Abdullah with a stick. And he used to poke the lips of Abu Abdullah in front of the Imam. Number three, the Imam could see there were Jewish rabbis and Christian priests who were sitting in the court of Yazid. How he chooses his words determines whether he could shake the empire. Why? He wasn't just thinking about the people of Yazid. He's thinking that Jewish rabbi's got a religion. He knows what it means when a messenger of God comes and a Messiah. That Christian priest in his Bible has got it written down about my great-grandfather. If I can express the words properly, I think both of them will come towards the religion. Imagine. Number four, the context was that the people had completely forgotten who Ahlul Bayt were. When he walked towards the sermon, someone came to him and said, may I thank Allah who did this to you and did this to the rest of your family, and may God and Yazid annihilate you. He said to him, brother, have you read in the Quran, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى? That Rasulullah said, I don't ask you for nothing except love for my family. He said, yes, of course I have. He said, have you read in the Quran in Surah 8 verse 41, وَعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا غَنِمْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَأَنَّ لِلَّهِ خُمُسَهُ وَلِلرَّسُولِ